Are you ready to talk? Oh yeah, I'm ready to talk. Well, okay, let's talk. Girl, let's talk. Let's talk.
Shout it. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Brown Skin Chit Chat. I am one of your hosts, Monique Brown, and I've got my other girl here, Shalita. Say hi, Clee.
Everyone. Hi.
We're missing our other host today. She's having some technical difficulties, but we're going to continue on. But as you can see, we have a whole panel today. We're super excited because this is the first time we've done that.
Yay.
So I'm very excited to have our guests today. Our topic today is HBCUs and whether or not they're still relevant in 2025. So I have Kevin Bird, who is here. Say hi, Kevin. He is actually our first male guest here. So be nice to him, everyone. Thank you, Kevin, for joining. Thank you for joining and being part of this today. And then I have two of my favorite people in the whole wide world. I've got my niece, Taylor Robeson. Say hi, Tay. She is currently a student at Tuskegee University. And we've got Nia Williams. Say hi, Nia. And she is currently in high school. So they are going to ask questions around HBCUs and the relevance of them and if they still feel that they're relevant to this day. And we're going to see how this goes. So with that said, I'm going to kind of kick us off. As most of you know, because I say this all the time, I am an alumni of the Tuskegee University. That's right, class of 95. Woohoo! And I am very proud to be an alumni of Tuskegee, and was even prouder when my niece decided to go to Tuskegee. The impact that Tuskegee has had over my life has been immeasurable. This California girl going 3,000 miles away from home and attending a historically Black college and was pivotal to who I am, who shaped me as a young woman. And so I'm so grateful to Tuskegee for the experience, the education, all the friendships and relationships that I've grown and that have grown over the years. So as an alumni, I am very, very proud, and I wear my Tuskegee very proud on this chest here. So I think that. Kevin, why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. So I am an alumni of North Carolina A&T State University, home of the Fighting Aggies, Aggie Pride. I'm originally from North Carolina, and so going to school, I mainly picked North Carolina A&T off of credentials. I didn't do a school visit. I didn't go the route that a lot of people went, but it was one of probably the best decisions that I fell into because, like you said, the networking, the friendships, the support, all that was phenomenal for me. Great experience. Probably some of the best times of my life, even to this day. So definitely loved it there.
Awesome. So, all right. So we're going to start with the round of questions. Naya's going to kick us off with her first question. So go ahead, Naya.
The first question I would like to ask you both is, why did you choose to attend an HBCU and over other options, and what were your initial expectations going into it?
Go ahead, Kevin.
So I'll go first. I kind of already mentioned it a little bit. I didn't go your normal route. I went straight off of credentials. I knew I wanted to major in business, and I majored in accounting. And so I just looked at what schools were top credential-wise for accounting. I applied to some PWIs. I applied to some HBCUs. And North Carolina A&T happened to be one of the top schools in the state of North Carolina because I was looking for in-state tuition and all that. And so I chose them pretty much just off of credentials and what they have. Later on, when I went there, and I knew it was the HBCU, but I didn't really have any preconceived notions of what to expect. I just was kind of going there for the education. Went there and was pleasantly surprised that, like I said, it was probably one of the best decisions I made in my life.
Yes, for me, my journey was a little bit different. born and raised in California. I didn't know much about historically Black colleges and universities. It wasn't something that was, I guess, publicized to us in high school. This is in the 90s. I had two friends that decided to go away to Tuskegee, and they came back and they were like big brothers to me. And so they came back and they told me about their experience, and I was just in awe about the experience. I was used to being the only, most of the time the only Black kid in the class. And so I wanted to learn more about my history. I wanted to learn more about my people, and I wanted to learn more about myself in the process. I had been accepted to UC schools, state schools. I got accepted to UC Davis and some other pretty well-known schools here in California, but I was holding out for Tuskegee. So much to the point where I remember telling my counselor, can you please call and find out what's going on? Like I was tracking down, the acceptance for Tuskegee. So for me, going to Tuskegee was really about learning about myself. And, it was 3,000 miles away from home. So this is the other part, and I'm just going to keep it 100. I knew there was something more than what I was seeing. Like I knew in my life that there was more than what was in the Bay Area. And I was curious about it. And so I said, this is my opportunity to go and figure out what the rest of the world looks like. And so I will say that is probably really the driving force, was that I wanted to get out of California, and Tuskegee was my way to do it. I had no idea that what I was going to experience as part of that journey would be life-changing. All right, Tay, you want to go ahead with your question?
Yes, ma'am. My question is, how would you explain your college journey mentally?
Mentally, that's a good question. I would say it probably varies from person to person. It's going to be subjective. But for me, I've always kind of been able to excel in more of a balanced environment. So I was able to balance schoolwork and kind of social activities and things of that nature. I don't know if I could have made it just trying to just be nose to the grindstone and just all work and no play at all. It just wouldn't fit my personality and who I am. And so for me, mentally, it was great to see other people that look like me, who were really smart, who were really trying to go after it, and to kind of be in study sessions with them, working late nights with them, even professors that really want to see you succeed. That really just helped me even more. I think without that support, I don't know what I would have done in outside of an HBCU. I'm sure I would have still made it and succeeded, but I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. I wouldn't probably feel as supported, and it probably would have just been a longer, tougher road for me.
Yeah, I think for me, I wasn't prepared mentally for what I was going to experience. I remember stepping on Tuskegee's campus and walking down the Ave with my parents, and at one point in time my mother was like, have you seen any white people? Because we were not accustomed, California's like a melting pot of different races, and we weren't accustomed to being someplace where we were the majority. So I think it was a culture shock for us. It helped me, it inspired me, because I could see people that were actively doing things positive with their life, that were the Huxtables on TV that were lawyers and doctors, that there were people that looked like me that were actively pursuing these, these degrees. And then not only that, the alumni that would come back and would pour back into the university, that was huge for me. So mentally, I wasn't prepared for being the majority. That opportunity helped form my own self-pride and motivation to do and be more, because I could see excellence right in front of me. .
My next question is, what unique opportunities or challenges did you guys encounter at your HBCU that you might have not experienced elsewhere?
Hmm, that's interesting. I honestly can't think of anything at the moment that I would say was a challenge at an HBCU that I may not have received somewhere else. I've heard stories of people saying, "Oh, the final didn't come through. Oh, I don't know. They they couldn't find housing or what have you." But I would say for me, I didn't experience any of that. Most of my friends, everybody I can think of, didn't have any horrible experiences I can think of. So challenges, I think the biggest challenge is probably outside of HBCU. It's the perception of us who are not aware of HBCUs. I had talked to one or two friends of mine who were on the West Coast and didn't know anything about HBCUs. And so their point of view or perception of HBCUs is kind of negative, where if you're on the East Coast or you're on the South, Southeast, it's pretty positive. So it's kind of like your own peers who are not in that area, who are not familiar with HBCUs. It's trying to let them know, like, hey, these schools are really great schools, and they're not like subpar or anything like that. And from a career perspective and job perspective, I feel like most top 100, 200, Fortune 500 companies, they seek out HBCUs when they're looking for diversity and they're looking for those top candidates. I would just say that whatever school you go to, just make sure you pick one that is strong in your major and have high credentials and things of that nature. But I can't think of anything outside of just people who are not aware.
Yeah, I would tag on to that a little bit, Naya. I would say that for me, the issue was I graduated in 1995, and in 1995, you were still trying to explain to people what HBCU really meant. And so when I left the South, and as Kevin said, in the South and on the East Coast, everyone knows what an HBC is because they're so, widespread, and everyone knows what those colleges and such are. But on the West Coast, where I'm from, no one knew. Like, I remember trying to teach people how to say Tuskegee, right? They messed the word up. They didn't understand and then if you tried to explain, well, okay, Tuskegee Airmen, they didn't understand that because there's just a lack of knowledge about Black history. And so with that lack of knowledge of Black history, there wasn't a way for people to follow that along. I would say, like I said, when I graduated, unless you were in a specialized field and you wanted to stay in the South or you wanted to stay on the East Coast or in the Midwest, you would, pretty much easily find a job. But if I wanted to come home, which eventually I ended up coming back home, yeah, the employers did not know anything about the college that I attended. Now in 2025, things are different, right? But I still see there's still a lack of knowledge, but I think that we're closing that gap. So I would say that that was part of my challenge.
Yeah, I think I follow up and say that I feel like employers, 9 times out of 10, they're focused on if you went to a top 20 school first, and then they kind of look at, okay, if they're looking for engineers, did you go to a school that kind of focuses on engineers and they really push out a lot of great people in that discipline? But for me, because I moved out to the West Coast as soon as I graduated from college, and I'm sure my company probably didn't know much about North Carolina A&T, but I didn't have any problems getting jobs or what have you. As I feel like, because at the end of the day, North Carolina A&T prepared me to the utmost on skills and interviewing and things of that nature to know what I was going to have to go up against when I'm going against other people who don't look like me. So, I think it's, I will always say that you always want to go to the best school for your major first. But aside from that, I feel like a lot of companies just look at, did you graduate? What was your GPA? What other activities you was involved in? That type of thing, more so than the name recognition. Unless, like I said, unless you went to a top 20 school.
Yeah, I think HBCUs have come a long way since 30 years ago when I graduated. But yeah, I think there's still a ways for us to go. So, all right, Shalila, it looks like you had a little technical difficulty. You good?
I hope so.
Okay, welcome back. All
Thanks.
right, go ahead, Taylor.
How would you explain your HBCU providing advantages for Black students that PWIs cannot?
Wow, wow.
I feel like there's so much. Feeling like family. I can go to Atlanta, I can go to DC or what have you, and say Aggie Pride or North Carolina A&T, and people are just smiling and willing to like just be like find out what I'm about and my journey and all that. Whereas if I went to a PWI, I feel like I would be kind of shunned or looked the other way. Honestly, I would be bypassed. And I guess I'm talking more of our people, people of color. But yeah, it was a great experience. I had so much fun. I've had made so many friends that was in their weddings. I'm still friends with them to this day. We take annual trips, out the country or whatever. It's just those bonds that you create at those schools. And I think it's a little bit in college in general. But when you're at an HBCU, you have so many different groups of African American people that you can kind of find your tribe and still kind of enjoy school in the process, as opposed to being at a place and feeling like maybe everybody doesn't necessarily want you there, and feeling like they're not really trying to see you succeed, things of that nature. So I'm gonna stop right there, but I'm sure I can probably go on and on about college experience.
I like that tribe comment. I like that finding your tribe in the midst of all of our lovely Black people.
Yeah,
Yes, indeed.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll tag onto that a bit because I like Shalita. I agree. It's the tribe, right? I am still very good friends to this day with people I met on the first day I stepped on that campus in 1991. My roommates, my very good friends, I still talk to, like Kevin said, like I still have a relationship with them. I think that the relationships that you have with other alumni and people, I mean, I have driven down the road and someone sees my Tuskegee plaque on my car and have chased me down like, hey, when did you graduate? Or they'll see my shirt or something like that. And likewise, I think it's also, and Taylor, you'll see this when you have that pride in your school, you automatically are protective of your school and the people that join. So if there's someone that you see that is interested in your school or something like that, you want to see them succeed. You want to push them. You want them to go on to live their dreams because you realize whose back they're standing on. And I can say after, over 30 years now, you're standing on, my back. It's like, it's these things that makes me proud to be, a Tuskegee alumni. The relationship and the education, in my opinion, is great. It's the experience that no one can prepare you for. I can tell you about it, tell you about homecoming and all the things that happens and all that, but you have to experience it. When they say the Tuskegee experience, that's exactly what it is. It is an experience. And until you actually go and experience it, you don't understand what family you actually belong to. So for me, I don't think I would have received that at a predominantly white institution. I feel like I would have been, like most of my education leading up to college, I feel like I would have been lost and, kind of uh, um, yeah, kind of lost in the mix, and not able to shine like I would have, when I was at Tuskegee. And
Speaking of PWIs, I have a question relating to that. It was, how do you perceive the relevance and impact of HBCUs in today's society, considering factors like increasing diversity of PWIs and the changing of landscape of like higher education?
You know, as far as the changing landscape, and I guess PWI is trying to expand on their diversity, I feel it's hard to really talk about it because I didn't go to a PWI, but from my observation, I feel like they're still missing the mark at the end of the day for PWIs. I feel like a lot of people who are African American or just a minority in general who go to a PWI, they still feel like they have to kind of huddle amongst themselves to feel part of the school and feel supported. There are some outliners where people who come, they were raised in a predominantly white area, their friends in high school, and all throughout growing up, they were maybe Caucasian and what have you, then they probably can adapt a little bit more and feel like PWIs really offer them a lot. But I don't think that they are giving enough support in helping African Americans be feel like they're really part of the family. And I say that more so from looking at it corporate level and things that go on like in society just in general. So I can imagine that PWIs is probably similar.
yeah, I would say that, and I too, I have not attended PWI. I have taken classes there. I have walked the campus. I have spent overnights in their campus, but not as a actual student. But here's what I know for sure. I know that those institutions and the curriculum in which they're teaching is not going to be taught in such a way that honors the legacy of our people, because you can't teach what you didn't experience, right? I say I attended an institution where everywhere I looked around me was my history, where I am looking at Drew Hall and Booker T. Washington and all of this thing. It's literally in my face. The statues, the museums, the books, all of that is literally in my face. I can't turn away from it. Not only can I not turn away from it, it is ingrained in the curriculum in the school as well. I can remember taking a history class, which you think, okay, it's just a history class, but it taught me so much about my history that I know I would have never experienced in 1991, learning about Francis Quest Wesley and, all the different, things that, I learned in, Dr. Pfluger's class. Shout out to Dr. Pfluger. I did not learn those things. I wouldn't have learned those things in another institution. And then also see it play out in real time, real life, right in front of me. And so I think there's this misconception that HBCUs, like, all you're going to learn is about Black history, and that can't be further from the truth, right? You're learning so much about, our culture that has been shunned away in most schools, but you're also learning everything else that you need to be able to compete in the world, right? And so I think that's a big, it's a big thing, that for me, that's the difference. That's the difference. The difference is a PWI, the experience and the history that's in front of you, that you see around you. At least I'm not aware of there being statues on predominantly white institutions of, my history makers, of, the Booker T. Washingtons and the Drew and Charles Drew and all of those. Like, Everyone knows about Martin Luther King. Everyone knows about Malcolm X. They know about, Sojourner Truth. They know about those things because that's what everyone teaches, but they don't learn about the other, folks that are in our history that have paved the way for us. And I was able to see it real time on my campus. That's the difference.
Love it.
I just thought about something. I'm tripping because I did go to a PWI for grad school, but it was a hybrid program. So it was probably about 65 to 70% remote, and then we met in person. So in comparison, even though it's grad school, I would say that the one difference that I can say from being at PWI is that you kind of off top have to prove yourself because naturally other people look at African Americans as below average. So they're already assuming that you're below average coming into it. And so you then have to prove to them that, hey, you're competent and you're at their level. And then they'll accept you somewhat and be willing to work with you and
So true.
work on projects and study together and things of that nature. Whereas at the HBCU, kind of everybody's already accepting of you and assuming that you're at a good level or at least an average level. So you don't have that small hurdle of trying to come up and prove yourself from the start.
Yeah.
Other than that, like I said, I can't imagine that it would be the same especially going to undergrad at the PWI. I think graduate school, people come in a little bit more open-minded. They've gotten some experience under their belt. They're a little bit more professional. So they're probably still willing to give you a little bit more grace than being at an undergrad, but there's still that little nuance of like, okay, you're African American, so I'm assuming that you're not quite at the same level.
Okay, Tay, we are going to have you give us our final question, and then we'll give a little bit of a summary and wrap it up.
Okay, my last and final question is, what impact does your HBCUs have on local economies and Black wealth creations?
Loaded question. I'll jump in here, Kevin. Like from where I sit and live, we don't have a presence here, right? From a strong presence, should I say. I think, there's plenty of alumni that are working in, corporate America and in private sectors and that type of thing. And that I think that's a huge contribution too. But I haven't seen firsthand here in California. However, with that said, we have, especially under this new administration at Tuskegee, we have seen such a big shift in people within our school and our alumni that are contributing directly to the economy, that are directly contributing to building out Tuskegee, building out the city. It's not just the school, it's within the city and the neighborhoods and giving back to the community. Tuskegee has recently been in the news where, we now have the Tuskegee Airmen that we now have pilots that were graduating out of the school. So that's huge, you all. Like that's big. Yeah, we're building out land and building more buildings. The campus looks very different from when I was at school, but I see us definitely giving back to the community.
Yes, North Carolina A&T, they just crossed the threshold of having 15,000 population enrollment for this past fall season or semester. So 15,000 all locally in Greensboro definitely is affecting the economy in Greensboro. Like everything is revolving probably around A&T and their events they have coming up, whether it's homecoming, whether it's some type of basketball tournament or what have you. They're definitely ingrained in Greensboro. And then even outside of that local area, as far as the overall, I guess, U.S. economy goes, I would say there's probably a very high population of graduates from HBCUs. I don't know the numbers, but I would like to think that HBCUs in general have put out a lot of degreed professionals. in every field of industry. So they're adding to the economy by being employable and being able to kind of move up the ladder, and kind of, provide for their family, so to speak. So that's probably the way I would look at it.
Awesome. Thank you. I do have a question for you all before we check out here. This is for Kevin, Monique, and Taylor. What advice would you have given your freshman self coming into a HBCU? And to Kevin and Monique, for Taylor, what would you give when she becomes a senior? What advice would you give?
I'll go first. I think that's fairly easy for me. Is just remember that you're there to learn and to graduate and get good grades. So that's still at the forefront of why you're attending college. Um, I didn't have the problem, but I know that I've heard stories of people that go to schools and they party too much, and that's not necessarily an HBCU thing. It's just a college thing. You can say people up the street at Chico or wherever go out there, Berkeley, whatever, go to school and party too much and lose their mind. I think it's probably no different at HBCU. Just know that, the main thing that you're there for is to get a good education, get good grades, so you can set yourself up to be, in your career. And that first job kind of really starts you out at how you're going to successfully. It doesn't necessarily put a ceiling on where you can go, but it definitely puts you at a stairs or a height of where you're going to start off at, and just making sure that your grades are tight and that you have everything else aligned is just going to set you up for better things to come in the future.
Yeah, I would say that remember your why you're getting an education, what's driving you, and keep that at the forefront of your mind. I would also say that remember that you are living someone's dream. You are our ancestors' wildest dreams. You are living someone's dream that doesn't have the means and the opportunities that you have been afforded to you. So don't waste them. Honor them. The education that you're going to receive, whether it's at a HBCU or a PWI, is important, and don't party that away. But college is about experiences, and most of what you're going to experience is going to grow you up. Mm-hmm. Because nobody cares that you partied all night and you didn't get a chance to do your homework. Nobody's checking to make sure you did your homework. No one's checking in to see if you're passing a class. They're not doing any of those things. It's your responsibility to govern and self-discipline yourself. And so I would say those are foundations for the rest of your life. Like, those are things that you're going to have to self-discipline for the rest of your life. You are going to have to speak up for yourself for the rest of your life. You are going to have to put forth your best effort in everything you do for the rest of your life. College education that you are going to receive is one piece of it. But the life experiences that you will learn are immeasurable. And so I would say to both of you that while you're trying to figure out the next phase of your journey, and what that's looking like for you, make sure wherever you decide to go to college that you do it for you. You're not doing it for somebody else. And I'll put Taylor on the spot here because she and I had this conversation when she told me that she wanted to go to Tuskegee. And I asked her, I said, as happy as I am, why? Isn't that what I said to you, Tay? I said, why do you want to go? Don't do it for me. I want you to do this for you. This is the school for you. Pick it. Because you're the one that's going to have to deal with, dorm issues and, having to figure out how to drop a class or add a class, or walking from one end of campus to the other.
One thing I would say is that just the jump from high school to college in itself, you're going to probably be a little bit of shell shocked. And if you're at an HBCU, that shell shock may be a little bit more because there's so many of us there and you can really have a good time. But I tell anybody that you'll adjust and you'll find your way, you'll get through it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of like, oh, what's the mental adjustment going to HBCU, or am I going to party too much, or what have you. At the end of the day, your family, your parents raised you well, and you will do what you need to do in order to get good grades and succeed.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
Well, I will say thank you guys for joining us on this podcast. Thank you, Kevin, for your joining us here and being very candid and open about your experience. Special thank you to my two favorite girls, Naya and Taylor. Auntie loves you both so much, and I just am so proud of the young women that you are becoming. And so wherever you decide to go, Naya, I'm speaking more to you because Taylor's already in college. I hope some of this, will help you in your decision making, and, decide whether or not it's something that, you would want to pursue. But we wanted to have a real candid conversation about, HBCUs. And thank you, Shalita, for me. And I have been friends, and we said this a long time, we've been friends since high school. And so she saw, when I left to go away to college, and then I was gone for like 10 years, and, all the things and my experiences. So I have to say that is the other thing that helped, is having a good foundation at home, with family and friends that would remind me, that when it got hard, that I could do hard things, and they supported me. So I thank you, my friend. I thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Brown Skin Chit Chat. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We see you guys. We see your comments, and we appreciate your support. So thank you. Have a blessed day. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.